Let's start working on the side-to-side movement of the lower body. We'll switch from the side view now to our perspective. Now with this, what we want to look at is the passing point. Okay, around frame 7, that would be around the passing point where that right leg is passing the leg, and vice versa on the on our frames 18 and on, as that left leg passes. Okay, so starting from frame 7, what we'll want here is for the right leg to really swing out. Not too much, but just enough. So let's go ahead and bring out the right leg to about this point here. And then we'll want to definitely fix the knees. So we'll get around to that, but first we'll bring our attention to the feet. Okay, so once we have this, our leg swinging out, now when the leg plants, of course it's going to plant closer into the body. So let's now bring in our control so we can have that effect. Okay, so what we have here is a nice swing out. Now going to our translate X, what we now want to make sure that we do is that there's no sliding as that foot is going back. There should be no sliding at all in the X as that foot is moving back, and right now there is. If we were to select our key on frame 12, for example, and hit F to see this. Okay, so how are we going to have this appear to be planted in the X direction? Well, all we need to do is look at the point where the foot is still planted. So it's planted all the way to frame 20. So knowing that, we want to basically take this key on frame 12 and add it to frame 20. So one way we could do that is use the middle mouse button technique here, or trick. We can go to frame 12. We can middle mouse button click on frame 20, and then we can go to our translate X, right click and key selected, and select key selected. And now we have the same value, therefore we will not get any sliding at all in the X. Okay, great. So now that this is done, and again we do want to make sure that we have view infinity turned on so we can see our cycle. So now that this is done, we want to make sure we have a nice blend as we go from frames 20 right back to frame 7. So we'll select our keys on frames 1 and 23 and start bringing these down, and then we can adjust their right halves of their tangents. Here's what we get as we hit play. Wonderful. Now we're getting a really nice swing out with that right foot. Another thing we could do, of course, is add rotation to this. So on that same frame, frame 7, let's go ahead and go to our rotate Z, and on that we can rotate the foot out. Okay, not too much, but just enough. I have here about -7.6, but just rotating that out a little bit there, and then as the foot plants, just prior to it planting on frame 11, we can have it rotate the opposite direction. So at about a value of 10 here. And then as it plants, of course, there's not going to be any rotation at all. So we'll now have to zero out our Z direction. Notice what we get when we do that. We could even hit play to see this. Very nice. So we're getting a really nice foot stomp from doing that. And of course, we want to be mindful of the keys that we're setting. So let's go to the rotate Z, and we'll look at this. Actually, they look just fine. One thing we can do is have the rotate Z actually coming into effect after frame 20. So we'll go to frame 20, set a key of it set to 0. And now what we could do to fix the blend here is basically take our keys on frames 1 and also on 23, and we could bring these down a little bit more so that there will be movement after the key. And notice we still maintain a really nice blend. Okay. Alright, excellent. So here's our result. Great. Now lastly, what we can do here before we basically mirror this information to the right side is we need to be mindful of our rotation Y. Of course, the foot is going to actually be swung out a little bit more. That would be a more natural pose. So to start out, we can go to our rotate Y keys, select them, hold shift, and just bring them down so we have a little slant to the feet. Okay, so now that we have this, we're ready to just go through and see if we can add a little bit more rotation to this. So on frame 7, let's go there and rotate the foot out a little bit more in the Y. And then as the foot plants on frame 12, we'll set a value of 0. Or excuse me, of not 0, but basically the value that we had set on frame 1 and 23. So we'll copy that. And on frame 12, we can go ahead, select the key, and paste in the value. Great. And again, for what we did for the rotate Z, we'll go ahead and set a key there for our rotate Y. Go to our start and end keys, and basically bring down our keys so we have a nice blend going in and out of our function curve. Here's the result we get. Very nice. So this run is really coming together well for us. Okay, now let's go ahead and do the same effect this time for our left side, and then we'll look at the knees. Okay, so we can basically look at the values that we're using here. So with our translate X, we're using about a value of negative 8.7, which we can definitely switch that to. And then for the planted positions, we're using about a value of 2, so we could switch it to that. Okay, so we have 2 working with us for the plant, and as we swing out, we're working with negative 8.7. So know that we're going to use opposite values for the left foot and also on the right frame. So on this case, we have the leg swinging out on frame 18. So here we're going to want to use a value of positive 8.7. So we'll put that in to have it swing out. And then as the foot is planted from frames 9, we'll make sure that we put in that value of this time negative 2. Okay. Then we basically look for where the foot should be planted. So on frames 1 and 23, we know that we should have a value of 2 for them as well. So we'll select both keys, go to the value text field in the graph editor and put in a value of not 2 but negative 2. There we go. And that really should be it for this foot as far as the translate X is concerned. So we can now bring our attention to the rotation here. Okay, and that's going to be on the rotate Z to start out. We'll go to our rotate Z, go to its keys to see what we're working with. Okay, so the key on frame 7, that's about 7.6, so we could actually switch that value. Okay, and that's again on frame 7, so we're going to want to bring that to frame 18. And then for frame 11, a few frames after, we have about a value of 10, which we can definitely switch. And then the remainder is set to 0. Okay, so knowing this, again, that's negative 7.6 and also 10. We'll go to our next foot, focusing on its Z. At about 18, that should be positive 7.6. Okay. And then a few frames after that, on frame 22 actually, we bring this to a value of negative 10. Okay, for the plant. And then we should have a value of 0 as the foot plants all the way to where the character lifts up his leg again. So that's after frame 9. So on frame 9, we want to put in a value of 0 to show the plant there. Great. And now we have a mirrored effect. You can hit play and see that. All right, and then we want to be mindful of our Y rotation. So we'll go back to that other foot, go to the Y rotation, see what we're working with here. So this key on frame 7, let's even bring it to negative 7. That's pretty convenient. It worked out that way. So that's negative 7 as the foot swings out, and then that's about negative 2.9 or even 3. We could even use negative 3 for this. So we'll select both planted keys and switch their values to negative 3. Okay, so that's negative 7 and negative 3. We'll go back to the left foot, go to our rotate Y, and again on 18, that was a value of positive 7. Okay, and then as the character plants his foot on 23 and on frame 1, that was a value of positive 3. And then on frame 9, that's also going to be a positive 3. So we'll go to rotate Y and put a key in there. What we get now when we do this, if we hit play, is a nice mirrored effect with our legs. So this one is really coming together quite well. Great. Now, let's go ahead and quickly fix the knees. That's not going to be much to it at all. We basically want to make sure that they're going to be swinging out a little bit more. So on frame 7 for the right knee, we can go ahead and bring that out. And that really should be all we need to do there. Okay, just making sure that it doesn't cave in on us. So that means on frame 18 we need to do the same, and if we'd like to stay even, we can use the same value. So we can take this key, okay, for the right knee, and that was about -6. So we'll switch that. And then on frame 18 we'll go to the left knee, and we'll put in that value of +6 this time. The exact opposite. And then we can look at the animation, see what we have. Very nice. Okay, well, that pretty much finishes up our legs. So what we have left to do, really, for the lower body, for the hips, is to work on the rotation of the hips, the Z rotation, okay? And that's basically so we can get the nice hip popping effects as the character runs. Okay, so we'll get that in there. And also, we need to make sure that we have balance here, okay, as the character is swinging its legs out. Okay, so the body's going to be moving side to side as well. So those are some things that we're going to be moving on to in the upcoming lessons.